Richie here with Statifying Football. This is the Week 4 college football previews for the 3:30, the midday games. Colorado State Rams taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Colorado State had a nice win against Toledo, 22-6. Todd Centio, 110 passing, 62 rushing. David Bailey had a really good game, 132 rushing yards. Trey McBride, 9 catches, 109. He's a really good tight end. Watch for him to be really good in the NFL. Defensively is what won it. They had 6 sacks and a punt return for a touchdown. Iowa, their defense was great against Kent State, 30-7. Spencer Petras, 209 passing and a touchdown. Tyler Goodson, 153 rushing and 3 rushing touchdowns. Defensively, they had 7 sacks and a safety in that game. I think Iowa should be able, their defense is incredible. I think it's 25 or 26 games now where they've allowed less than 25 points, and they should continue that and be able to beat Colorado State. All right, a quote, big game in the SEC, the Texas A&M Aggies and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Texas A&M beat New Mexico 34-0. Zach Calzada, 275 passing, 3 touchdowns. Isaiah Spiller, 117 rushing and a touchdown. Damon Demas, 2 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. Defensively, they only allowed 122 yards and had 4 sacks in that game. Arkansas manhandled Georgia State 45-10. KJ Jefferson 366 and 3 touchdowns. Treylon Burks 3 catches, 127 and a touchdown. They had 633 total yards. I say it's a big game because they're both ranked, but A&M is not I think is way overrated. They probably should have lost to Colorado a couple weeks ago. They really didn't even look all that good against New Mexico. And Arkansas has been playing lights out. They're 3-0. I think Arkansas, I don't know if they win big, but I think Arkansas wins this game. All right, Clemson and North Carolina State. Clemson, they eked out a victory against Georgia Tech, only 14-8. Something is wrong with that Clemson offense. Ugalele, only 126 passing yards. They did have 4 sacks defensively. NC State, they beat Furman the way they should, 45-7. Devin Leary, 259 passing, 3 touchdowns, plus 1 rushing. Zonovan Knight ran for 104 yards and a touchdown. They had 505 total yards. Only allowed 196. This is my upset pick of the weekend. I think NC State gets it done against Clemson. There's something wrong with Clemson this year. All right, Iowa State and Baylor. This is a pretty big Big 12 game. Iowa State, they beat UNLV 48-3. Brock Purdy, 269 passing, 2 touchdowns, plus 1 rushing. Brock Purdy, 288 passing, 3 touchdowns, plus 33 rushing yards. Breece Hall ran for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Xavier Hutchinson, 10 catches, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They only allowed 130 yards of offense. Baylor, they beat Kansas the way they should, 45-7. Jerry Bohannon, 269, 2 touchdowns, and 1 rushing. Abram Smith, 122 rushing and a touchdown. R.J. Sneed, 6 catches, 128 and a touchdown. They put up 576 yards of offense. They turned it over twice. They can't do that against a good Iowa State team. I'm kind of going back and forth here. I'm really leaning for Baylor. Iowa State, I don't know, man. I'll give the nod to Iowa State, but I'm putting them on major upset alert there. All right, Rutgers and Michigan. Rutgers beat Delaware 45-13. Noah Vedral, 323 and 2 touchdowns. Bo Melton, 6 catches, 125 and a touchdown. Defensively, they had 5 sacks and a punt return for a touchdown. Michigan looks like a really strong team, maybe the best team in the Big Ten this year. They beat Northern Illinois 63-10. Cade McNamara, 191 and a touchdown. Blake Corum, 125 rushing and 3 rushing touchdowns. Cornelius Johnson, 3 catches, 117 and a touchdown. They put up 606 yards of offense. Rutgers is much improved, but I don't see them staying with Michigan. I think Michigan wins that one big. All right, UTSA Roadrunners and the Memphis Tigers. UTSA beat Middle Tennessee State 27-13. Frank Harris, 264 passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and ran for 56 yards. Running back Sincere McCormick ran for 105. Wide receiver Zachary Franklin, 8 catches, 114 and a touchdown. They did turn over 3 times. They can't do that against a potent Memphis offense. Defensively, though, they did have 5 sacks, 2 turnovers, and they returned a fumble for a touchdown. Memphis had a nice win against Mississippi State, 31-29. A bit controversial, but they still won. Seth Hennigan, 159 passing, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Calvin Austin 9 catches, 105, 2 touchdowns, and had a controversial 95-yard punt return for a touchdown. Go check that one out. Defensively, they had a fumble return for a touchdown. I'm not sure this will be close. I think Memphis' offense, that might be a little bit too much. Sincere McCormick, the running back for UTSA, is one of the best in the country. So if they want to keep it close, they're going to have to keep that ground game going and get him going, keep that Memphis offense off the field. But I think Memphis ends up winning. All right, Louisville Cardinals and the Florida State Seminoles. Louisville had a nice win against UCF, 42-35. A miracle pick six with 13 seconds to go to win. I don't know why UCF was passing at that point, but whatever. Malik Cunningham, 265 passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, plus 99 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Marshawn Ford, 8 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. They put up 501 yards of offense. FSU is terrible this year. They got smacked by Wake Forest, 35-14. Mackenzie Milton wasn't very good, 119, 2 picks. Jordan Travis wasn't very good, 107, 2 touchdowns. They had 6 turnovers in that game. I don't see this one being close. I think Louisville destroys them. All right, Illinois and Purdue. Illinois lost a close game to Maryland, 20-17. Brandon Peters was terrible, 10 of 26, 185 and 1 pick. They forced 2 turnovers. Purdue lost to Notre Dame, 27-13. Jack Plummer, 187 passing and a touchdown. Aiden O'Connell, 104 passing and 2 picks. Defensively, they had 4 sacks in that game. Illinois opened up the year with a nice win, and they haven't been able to come off since. Purdue has a nice, powerful passing offense. It's kind of 2 different offenses facing each other. Purdue's passing, Illinois is more of a ground and pound game, but I think Purdue is the one that wins in the end. All right, Kent State Golden Flashes and the Maryland Terrapins. This could be a pretty high-scoring game. Kent State, though, lost 30-7 to Iowa. Dustin Crum, 185 passing and a touchdown. Keyshawn Abrams, 6 catches, 138 and a touchdown. In Maryland, they won a close game against Illinois, 20-17. Talia Tagovailoa, 350 passing yards and a touchdown. Defensively, they had 6 sacks in that game, and Kent State did give up 7 sacks to Iowa, so I think that may be the difference in what could be a high-scoring game, and I think Maryland wins. Wyoming and Uconn. Wyoming destroyed Ball State 45-12. Sean Chambers, 201 passing, 1 touchdown, 1 rushing. Defensively, they had 6 sacks, 3 turnovers, and had 2 interceptions returned for a touchdown. Uconn has been awful this year. They don't have much of anything going. They lost to Army 52-21. Their quarterback Tyler Fomachan, 11 of 26, 109 and 1 pick. He did run for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they had a kick return for a touchdown. But Wyoming's not the most powerful offense in the world, but Uconn is pretty terrible. I think Wyoming should win by about 20. All right, Towson and San Diego State. San Diego State had a really good win against Utah, won 33-31 in triple overtime. Lucas Johnson, not much passing, only 44 passing yards and a touchdown, but he ran for 87 yards. Craig Bell ran for 119 and 2 touchdowns, and they had a kick return for a touchdown, and they should do fine and beat Towson. Georgia State and Auburn. Georgia State had a nice win against Charlotte, 20-9. Darren Granger came in for Cornelius Bell. We'll see if he plays. He passed for 139, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, and ran for 50 yards. Auburn had a heartbreaking loss against Penn State, 28-20. Bo Nix, 185 passing, 29 rushing. Tank Bigsby ran for 102 and 2 touchdowns. And I think they'll be mad about losing and should have their way with Georgia State. Kansas and Duke. Duke lost 45-7 to Baylor. Kansas lost 45-7 to Baylor. Jason Bean, 8 of 17, 57 yards, 1 touchdown, 62 rushing yards there. Only 166 total yards of offense. Duke had kind of a surprising win against Northwestern, 30-23. They're up 30-0 at one point in that game. Gunnar Holmberg, 314 passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, plus 46 rushing yards. Mateo Durant ran for 102 and 1 touchdown. Jake Bobo, 11 catches, 109. They had 558 yards of offense. They did turn it over 3 times, which is what Duke does. I don't know. They led the nation last year with 39 turnovers, by far the worst in the country. And they're kind of doing it again, but they forced 5 turnovers defensively, which helped them beat Northwestern. Kansas has a pretty mobile quarterback in Jason Bean, but I'm gonna stick with Duke one more week and say Duke wins this one. All right, Arkansas State Red Wolves and Tulsa Golden Hurricane, both coming off losses, both potentially. Arkansas State definitely has a good offense. Tulsa potentially has a powerful offense. Arkansas State's offense didn't show up against Washington. No, they lost 52-3. James Blackman was terrible, 16 of 38, 176. They only had 268 yards and three turnovers. They did force 3 turnovers, which would help them against Tulsa. Tulsa lost to Ohio State 41-20, but it was much, much closer. It was only like 27-20 midway through the third quarter. Davis Brin, 428 passing, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. Josh Johnson, 8 catches, 149 and a touchdown. They put 501 yards of offense. I'm kind of leaning towards Tulsa in this one. I think if James Blackman plays for Arkansas State, I don't know that they'll win. I think they need to stick with Lane Hatcher. I'll give Tulsa a win victory in the shootout, but that one really could go either way, literally to the last second. UCLA and Stanford. UCLA was upset by Fresno, 40-37. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 278 passing, 3 touchdowns, plus 67 rushing. Kyle Phillips, 7 catches, 113 and a touchdown. Cam Brown, 5 catches, 111 and a touchdown. Defensively, they did force 3 turnovers, but they gave up 569 yards of offense. Stanford had a ho-hum win against Vanderbilt, 41-23. Tanner McKee, 218, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. I'm having trouble picking UCLA. Their offense still good. Fresno is a really, really good team. It was an upset, but I think people were sleeping on Fresno. Stanford, they seem to be kind of back to what they do. They run it pretty well, have a decent quarterback. I'm gonna stick with UCLA though for one more week. I do think Fresno State played Oregon really close and almost beat them. So I'm gonna go UCLA. I think they bounce back here and get a victory over Stanford. All right, Buffalo and Old Dominion. Buffalo lost a close game to a good Coastal Carolina team. They only lost 28-25. They did run for 262 yards. Old Dominion lost to Liberty 45-17. DJ Mack 134 passing and 1 touchdown. DJ Mack may be able to keep them close against Buffalo, but I think that run game will be a little bit too much for Old Dominion. All right, Charleston Southern and ECU. ECU had a nice comeback win against Marshall. They were down 38-21 with about 8 minutes left in that game. They won 42-38. Holton Ahlers, 368 passing, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. Keaton Mitchell, 135 rushing yards and a touchdown. Shane Calhoun, 8 catches, 114 and a touchdown. They had 561 yards of offense. They forced 3 turnovers, but they gave up 647 yards. That shouldn't matter too much this week against Charleston Southern. I think ECU should be able to win. All right, you got the Louisiana Raging Cajuns and the Georgia Southern Eagles. Could be a kind of a tricky, close game. Georgia Southern has a pretty decent triple option offense that maybe could keep it close against Louisiana. Louisiana, though, they did whatever they wanted against Ohio, 49-14. Levi Lewis, 212 passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, plus 61 rushing. Montrell Johnson, a freshman, he reminds me of Fournette. He only ran for 84 yards, but he had 4 rushing touchdowns in that game. He had 562 total yards of offense. Georgia Southern, they did lose to Arkansas 45-10. Justin Tomlin, 11 of 23, 65 yards. And he ran for 69 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, they're a triple option team. They might be able to run it pretty decently, but I'm going to go with Louisiana to win in the end. All right, Texas Southern, Rice. Rice got killed by Texas 58-0. They had played 3 quarterbacks, and they were efficient. They were combined to be 19 of 24, but only for 128 yards and could not score. Texas Southern may be able to upset them, but I'm gonna say Rice bounces back and wins there. All right, big game in the SEC, big rivalry in a way. The Tennessee Volunteers and the Florida Gators. Tennessee, that offense was Josh Heupel was looking pretty decent. They did what they wanted against Tennessee Tech, 56-0. Hendon Hooker, 199 passing, 3 touchdowns, plus 64 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. Defensively, they only allowed 179 yards, 4 sacks, 4 turnovers, and had an interception return for a touchdown. Florida, there was a lot closer than I thought it would be against Alabama. They only lost 31-29. Their kicker had missed an extra point earlier in the game, and Florida couldn't get the 2-point conversion late in the game to tie it. Emory Jones was okay for him. I still don't think he's very good, but he passed for 195 and a pick and ran for 77 yards and a touchdown. They ran for 245 yards against Alabama and they had over 109 more yards than Alabama did. This is a tricky Tennessee team. Josh Heupel was the head coach at UCF with their fast, awesome offense. And people are like, oh, is that going to translate? People forget he was the offensive coordinator at Missouri a few years ago when Drew Lock at the time had set an SEC record with 44 touchdown passes. Yes, that offense will work in the SEC. I'm very nervous about this game as a Gator fan. I do think Florida, their defense should be able to maybe create some turnovers or whatever and win, but I think this is going to be a nail biter to the end. Nebraska and Michigan State. Nebraska kept it close against Oklahoma, lost 23-16. Adrian Martinez, 289 passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, plus 34 rushing yards and a touchdown. Michigan State looked really good against Miami. They won 38-17. Peyton Thorne, 261 passing, 4 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, he's up there in the Heisman in my book. He ran for 172 yards and had one receiving touchdown. Defensively, they did force 4 turnovers in that game. I think this will be a little bit closer, but I'm going to say Michigan State. They look really good this year. I think they should be able to win. All right, another big game in the Big 12 here. Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Kansas State had a nice win against Nevada, 38-17. Will Howard, 7 of 10 passing, 123 and a touchdown, plus 56 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Deuce Vaughn, if you haven't seen him, he's Darren Sproles, number 2. He ran for 127 and a touchdown there. Oklahoma State, they beat Boise State in Boise, which is only Boise State's 11th home loss since the year 2000. They won 21-20. Spencer Sanders was kind of terrible, though. 6 of 13, 82 yards, 40 rushing yards and a touchdown. It was all Jalen Warren at running back. He ran for 218 and 2 touchdowns, and they had 4 sacks there. It seems like Oklahoma State is winning with their defense this year, which is what Kansas State likes to do, is playing right into Kansas State's hands. I'm going to say Kansas State wins that game. All right, Kentucky and South Carolina. Kentucky, they eked out a victory against 1AA UT Chattanooga, 28-23. Will Levis, 254 passing, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. Wendell Robinson, 8 catches, 111 yards. They turned it over 3 times. They can't do that against South Carolina. They did have an interception return for a touchdown there, which helped them win. South Carolina, they got killed by Georgia, 40-13. Luke Doty, 13-26, 153, 1 passing and 1 interception. Josh Vann, 3 catches, 128 and a touchdown. They forced 3 turnovers there. This is really going to come down to turnovers. This should be kind of a low-scoring game. I'm going to say Kentucky bounces back and they clean up their miscues a little bit and win a close game there. All right, North Texas and Louisiana Tech. This should be high scoring, although North Texas was surprisingly destroyed by UAB, 40-6. Their offense was not, they only had 220 yards of offense. North Texas normally has one of the best offenses statistically in the country. Austin Audie was only 8 of 21. Jace Ruder was 6 of 13 for 34 yards. Pretty terrible. Louisiana Tech, they lost on a Hail Mary to SMU. They lost 39-37. Their offense was great, though. Austin Kendall, 351 passing, 4 touchdowns, plus 1 rushing. Trey Harris, 5 catches, 102, and 2 touchdowns. I think North Texas does bounce back and plays better, but I'm going to go with Louisiana Tech getting last-second touchdown, field goal, whatever. This very well could be another shootout, but I'm going to go with Louisiana Tech to win. And the final game of the middle, the 3:30 games, Navy and Houston. Navy coming off a bye a couple of weeks ago. They lost the Air Force 23-3. They only had 68 total yards of offense. I don't know what's wrong with Navy the last couple of years, but they are just looking horrible. Houston did whatever they wanted against Grambling, 45-0. Clayton Tune passed for 62 yards and a pick, but I think he may have been hurt. Ike Ogbogu came in and did pretty well, 196 passing and 2 touchdowns. Alton McCaskill, 114 rushing and 2 touchdowns. Nate Dell, 8 catches, 134 and 2 touchdowns. They only allowed 102 yards and had a punt return for a touchdown. I'm going to go with Houston winning it pretty big there. I don't know what's wrong with Navy, but they're not getting it together. So those are my picks for my midday games. Check out my primetime games and my NFL games later. So peace.